be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. I wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to this week's episode of the World of Gaming. And Dutch, my man, I'm excited because literally just 10 minutes before we started this podcast, the Xbox Developer Direct of this year ended. We had the 2025 Xbox Developer Direct, and honestly, it was really, really good. And I cannot wait to talk about it. But first, Dutch, we need to welcome our amazing community. A big welcome to everyone who is already joining us here live today on YouTube. A big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. A big welcome. We want to know, of course, from all of you, how did you like the Xbox Developer Direct? What were your thoughts? Let us know either in the comments or, of course, here in the chat. And Dutch, my man, how are you doing today? I'm so glad to hear that. You're yes, yes. Awesome. Good stuff. So, since we didn't have a podcast last week, Dutch, unfortunately, we need to talk about the games we've been playing. And we want, of course, to know from everyone here in our community, what have you guys been playing over the last, well, now 2 weeks? Dutch, what kept you busy, man? Oh, on the Pixel remaster thing, or right, right. Yeah, the HD. Yeah, Mm. Oh, that is not good. Not good. Yeah, I hope you can fix it. S-
Now you've got
You
me
should
back.
be good.
Hallelujah. Right, okay.
Hallelujah.
We've got
Okay,
everybody back
okay.
now. Thank
Technical
God for that. So,
issues, man.
thankfully, you haven't missed anything, just how I am, and welcome to the show. And we've had a couple of weeks off, and I've been playing Final Fantasy X. So that's all wrapped up in a very short, brief period.
Sweet.
But
Sweet.
welcome.
All
dear
right.
me.
All right.
Other than Final Fantasy X, I was playing some Age the other day, Age 4.
Yeah, man, I've seen you. I was like, I was playing Pillars of Eternity, and I see Duchess online playing H4. That can't be right, man.
I have it permanently installed on the PC, so naturally, every now and
That's
again.
the spirit.
Naturally, every now and again, I was even, you know what it is. I don't have Age 2 installed at the moment. I was even on the brink of installing and having a game of Age 2, and I was like, no, it takes long enough to have several matches on Age 4. I probably won't get around to playing Age 2 tonight. So,
Yeah.
no, I had a few matches. I beat the an AI 1v1 on hard and then hardest difficulty. So I've got those 2 achievements done. So that was good.
Mm.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoy a good game of Age every now and again. I just like. I'm one of those, especially when it comes to building huge, huge empires. I love building massive empires and huge
Yeah.
walled cities and things like that in. So yeah, I just enjoyed it. And outside of that, a while ago, I picked up Pokemon Diamond or whatever it's called, the newest version of it, Shining Diamond or something.
Mm.
And I put it down a long time ago because it was just a case of I just picked it up, played a little bit of it, and put it down again. On this occasion, I've just kind of been going through, so I beat a couple of the gym leaders and things like that, and then chilled out. But that was more, believe it or not, I was actually playing that whilst I was watching a football match.
Okay.
In the background, so it was just on there, and I was like, okay, I'll just put this on whilst I wait for the game to play, and then play it at half time and things like that. So, yeah, and obviously we speaking of Pokemon and Nintendo, we have, because we missed last week, we can discuss that a little bit later as well. So there is Nintendo
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that later, but man, I'm itching to talk about the developer direct,
Yes.
because I I really thought it was a fantastic dev direct. Pardon me. But first, I need to shout out Sith Lord, who sends in the first super chat of the day and says, Sony falling apart, 9 out of 12 games cancelled. Hashtag no PS6. Yeah, man, we will definitely get to that. But again, we first need to talk about the developer direct, and yeah, Dutch. Good playlist you got there, maybe except Pokemon. You know, I'm not a big fan of that. So I've been continuing, or I think I'm almost done with Space Marine 2,
Yeah.
which I do enjoy a lot. And but the game I played the most over the past 2 weeks is Pillars of Eternity 2. It has its hooks in me. I'm in knee deep in the end game. I really I really struggled when I first started the end game. It's balls hard. Like towards the end of the campaign, I felt like, oh man, I've got this killer build and I can just crush everything, and I felt so super powerful. And then I arrived in the end game, and man, oh boy, it took a while to get my foot into the end game, but it's actually really good, and there's tons of content. It's literally infinite, the end game, and it makes a lot of sense how they designed it and the way how you progress. And encounter new challenges, and the way how you can always increase somehow your build, and it's just a phenomenal game. I honestly cannot wait for the full release. But yeah, Dutch.
Yes.
Enough of the games of the week. We need to talk about the developer direct. So it's the third time we get this format in January, and man, they did it again. Shadow Drop, right? 2 years ago they did this, the same thing with Hi-Fi Rush. They did it this year again. But before we talk about all the games and the announcements, what were your overall impressions of that format? I mean, after doing it for the third time, were you hoping for something different? Did you still enjoy it? What were your thoughts, general thoughts, just on the production?
Yeah, you know what it is. I can't complain. This is one show that I cannot complain about its production value, because I think it's so well done. Because they have refined it like a little bit over the first and second one. And then on the third one, I think the third one was it the third one last year and the fourth one this year? I can't remember now. It's been a few now. I'm sure this is the fourth. But
I think it's the third.
Third, is it?
I think. Someone in the chat should correct us.
But when they changed it last year to kind of have that thing where they went into the studio and you see beside the studio and things for the first time properly, was definitely a better way of doing it, I think, because it was a little bit more of a mini showcase for these games as opposed to just announcing a more in-depth look at a game, which is what they did the first time round, and it was fantastic the way they did that. It was like, here's this game and this is its new release date, and here's this game and this is its new release date, and you got like a little bit extended gameplay footage on the first one. But then last year they kind of changed things around and had a little bit more in-depth discussions with the people that worked at the studios, and then talked about the games a little bit more, whether that be to talk about the story or the gameplay or the graphics or the sound, whatever it was that they were discussing, and then follow up with a release window or a release date for their game. And it worked fantastically, and there really wasn't anything I would have changed from last year. The only thing that was different last year was we had less actual dates and we got release windows. This year we only had one release window, and that wasn't even an actual first party title. It was first party published, but it's by a separate company. However, that got a window, and every other game got an official release date, which was really great to see. So we've actually got pinpointed dates and a solid lineup of games over the next like 3-4 months, which is insane. And two of those games are like within 2 weeks of each other. But the format, the way it's done, I literally wouldn't change what they've done. I think it is perfect the way they've set it up now. I can't. There's nothing I could nitpick out of that to hate on. I think it's really well produced. I like the way that they go to the studios to talk about it. And yeah, I just think it's exactly where it needs to be. So hats off to them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The production value is there, right? It's very well put together. I like the length each game gets in these, with around about 10 minutes. Yeah, not too short. It's enough time to explain the game, the idea, the story, the gameplay, whatever you want to explain, right? But
each
doesn't
one of
overstay
them,
its welcome.
Each one of them has like an unbridled gameplay moment, so you can see what the game is like to play, which is one of the key things people always ask for. Is I want to see how this thing plays. How does it play when I play it? And all of them showed how that works, which is, again, you couldn't ask for more.
Indeed. H. Julia sends in a channel member chat for being a channel member for 12 months and says hello. Big hello to you, and again, a big hello to everyone who tunes in. I know there are a lot of parallel streams going on at the moment, so we super appreciate you guys dropping in here now and talking with us about the Developer Direct. So let us know in the chat. We put up a poll. Want to know how you liked it, and of course, let us know your thoughts on the production quality in the games. So, Dutch, I totally agree with you. And I think they will continue to do this kind of format. There's really not any voice you usually see after those developer directs that do start to criticize them. Only surprise for me this year was that there wasn't a surprise fifth game, because
Yeah.
in the last years they always
I
had
suppose technically there was.
technically,
Technically
yeah,
there was.
technically, but yeah. Well, let's start with that. Team Ninja opened up the show, so the mystery game, yeah. And I actually put up a post yesterday on Blue Sky and Twitter asking what people think a day before the developer direct what's the mystery game, what's it gonna be, and actually quite a lot of people guessed Ninja Gaiden, yeah, and they opened up the show with that.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 4 from Team Ninja coming this fall.
Yeah.
And of course, it's coming to Game Pass, like every other game that they shown in the developer direct. So, what were your thoughts on Ninja Gaiden 4, man?
Yeah, I mean, it looks bloody, brutal.
Indeed.
It looks like a return to form for Ninja Gaiden. Honestly, it looked unbelievably fast paced. It looked, in terms of graphically, it looked absolutely fine. Of course, it's set in kind of more of a night area, so it is obviously meant to be a little bit darker. But it just looks brutal and fast paced, and it just looks like a real return to form for Ninja Gaiden as a series. And I expect it to be unbelievably difficult, like the original Ninja Gaidens were.
Yeah, true.
They're renowned for being tough games, but it looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, it's a combination of Team Ninja, Koei Tecmo, and Platinum Games. So it's a good kind of system there where they've got multiple unbelievable, really competitive developers there that are going to create something fantastic.
Indeed. And since you mentioned the difficulty, I noticed that they mentioned that multiple times, and how they were trying to balance it out, making not too hard, to make it more approachable for people, but still having the core elements that is tough, or which can be tough. So yeah, it looks like you say it can be really tough. I think they've mentioned that they've tried to design it so it's good for newcomers and fans alike. So whether or not they add something in there that makes it a little bit easier for newcomers to try and play it, because it can be brutal at times. However, it looked really good. Like I say, fast paced. It looks like a lot of combo attacks, but everything just looks so brutal. Indeed.
It's so gory. That looks so swift. I really can't wait to play it and see it in action, like with my own hands. Nice surprise.
It's been a while since we had a Ninja Gaiden, right? If I think about the last games from Team Ninja, games like Nier Automata, which was phenomenal. Or even Bayonetta, right? Which I thoroughly enjoyed. I actually cannot wait to play this. It's finally not a Souls-like game that is still challenging to some degree, right? Which is fantastic. And since you mentioned the gore, I really dig this kind of art style that they are going for, because it is drop dead gorgeous, but still it has this stylized, almost cel-shaded touch to its visuals.
It's got a mixture. It's got a mixture of like cel-shaded versus some really high polished looking surfaces as well that have hyper detail. Just a nice mixture that they've got there. I agree.
Yeah, that absolutely, and it makes the gore and blood stand out even more. So yeah, that was fantastic. But I also seen a lot of snippets with, like these fast-paced, how do you call it? Traversal stuff,
Platforming.
Yeah, platforming. Thank you. I was looking for that word. And that's in there, and obviously these big action moments, when when the ninja slides down this collapsing bridge, and these big action set pieces, along with the fast-paced moment-to-moment combat and the platforming stuff. This is gonna be one hell of a game.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Do you think the mystery would be Ninja Gaiden? Did you expect that?
You know what it is? I saw a long list of rumors, and one of the most realistic ones that I've seen before it was that it would be Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
So I thought out of all of them, because there was a lot of people trying to think, oh, is it Lost Odyssey? Are they bringing Lost Odyssey back? Because Jez, of course, said it was an old Japanese series that
Japanese, yeah.
was coming back. So we thought, oh, okay, so what game's on it? Of course, a lot of people wished it was Final Fantasy coming to Xbox. And
yeah.
but
even if it was, it wouldn't make sense to put a Final Fantasy 16 into a developer direct.
Exactly. I mean, it would have been obviously, or for instance, maybe Kingdom Hearts. That would have been a big Japanese series that still has yet to be updated.
Although they already confirmed that they have the marketing rights with PlayStation, so I don't think
exactly. So
that would have been a realistic guess. Yeah.
Of all the rumors that I saw, Ninja Gaiden looked like the most realistic one to me. And it turned out to be the case. What I didn't expect, of course, was that it was out so soon, i.e., this year, and we'll be getting it in fall 25.
Yes. Only game that didn't get a proper release date. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's again, we've talked about this before. Nobody is putting down his shoes for this fall or holiday season before everyone knows when GTA 6 comes out, right?
Exactly. So they'll be waiting for that. Right, it's there. Okay, we're gonna go here.
Yeah.
And granted, they're different, entirely different games, but it matters not what type of game you are when GTA comes out, because nobody's playing anything else.
Yeah, that's just such a juggernaut. You kind of have to move out of the way of GTA 6 if you don't want to get buried. That's just the case. Interesting enough that if you think about this now, we have a super packed with all the other release dates now. We'll get to the others, of course, later, but all the other games in the first half, right? Plus, of course, Avowed in the first half, and then in the second half,
in 2 weeks.
Woo. Yeah, true. If you pre-ordered, which I did,
or have the upgrade, yes.
I mean the regular pre-order doesn't get you early access.
No,
you have to have the deluxe edition or upgrade.
Yeah. The bonus that they had, though, was that they shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden 2 Black.
Yeah.
A UE5 remake of...
A remake?
Yes.
A proper remake.
Yep.
Not one of these cheap, easy remasters, right? Where they slap in a little higher resolution and re-release the game. It's a proper remake, fully in Unreal Engine 5. And it's a shadow drop, Dutch.
On Game Pass today.
On Game Pass today.
And it's 84 gig if you want to download it.
I haven't started the download yet because I knew that we were doing the podcast and, bandwidth. Yes. I'm going to start downloading right after this podcast.
Absolutely. And that was a nice surprise. I did not expect that. When they cut to kind of, let's show you something else, I didn't expect them to show off, okay, we've got a game for you to play today. That was nice. That was a really nice surprise. And, of course, being able to play it right now, if you really want to. And in Game Pass, fantastic. But yeah, it's available everywhere now.
Yeah, I did really not expect that to happen. I thought the shadow drop during a developer direct is a one-time thing with Hi-Fi Rush, but for them to do it again, isn't that a nice surprise? And I mean, it's been ages. When did Ninja Gaiden 2 Black come out? If
I don't think
I
it's
want
had
to
a black
say,
version. I think it was just Ninja Gaiden 2 at that point. But I don't
yeah.
know when that came out. I think the black versions
uh,
have always been the remake slash remasters.
Let me see real quick. 2008.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Man,
old.
that's 17 years.
Yep.
17 years, and I haven't played it ever since.
Yep. So now you
Never
get a
did a
fancy
second
new version.
playthrough. Yeah, man, which is awesome. It will nicely bridge the gap till Avowed comes out.
Yep.
Of course, along with Path of Exile.
Yep. Yep.
So
Avowed is
yeah,
what's is just I'm focused on now in my recent.
yeah,
I don't want to get too in depth in anything big right now because Avowed's the one that I'm looking for.
yeah,
Like I don't want
yeah.
to start something big. Final Fantasy isn't fine. I can play that downstairs in the sitting room. But yeah, it's fantastic shadow drop, fantastic announcement. To start off the show with a big announcement like that is great. I didn't think they would start the show with the hidden announcement.
Yeah.
And only after the show started did I see a post by Aaron Greenberg saying you might want to get in early. Like, don't miss the opening sections of the show because you will miss something.
And now you know why.
Yep.
No, this is really a nice surprise. And especially since it's not just it's remaster or the original game is getting like some backward compatibility enhancements, FPS boosts or something, like truly remade in Unreal 5, and it looks actually really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'll play that starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to. And Pyro said Ninja Gaiden was an original Xbox game, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. 2008, man. It's been that long.
I'm so glad they've started working on some of these older IPs again, and I hope that is a sign of things to come with some older IPs that they're willing to go back and go, okay, we've got Ninja Gaiden 4, we've got the awesome original team that created that along with Xbox then. We've brought them back to do it now. So I hope this is a trend that continues, and of course we won't see them often, but if we can get some more of these classic IPs that Xbox are sitting on continued, then I think it'll be a great thing. But fantastic start.
I agree. All right, Dutch. So Ninja Gaiden and was followed by South of Midnight, which interestingly got a release date on April 8th. I mean, you and I, we both talked about that Doom and South of Midnight feel like games that they would release in the first half of this year, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we were right on that. April 8th, like it's a nice long enough gap in between Avowed, right? And then April 8th, South of Midnight. Not the first time we've seen the game, but the first time we got a look into the actual story of the game, right?
Yep.
So what were your thoughts on South of Midnight, man?
You know, every time I see this game, it looks better and better. I not only do I love the story elements of the game, but one thing I think I mentioned the other week when we spoke about Developer Direct was what we wanted to see from it, and I said I want to see more of the mystical side of things, and they showed that off today. They showed her abilities on able to kind of solve mysteries on what happened to certain things and fix these creatures that are around the world. And so
what's Weaver actually doing?
Yeah. So I saw those abilities in play, and obviously I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when you fixed or healed these creatures like the giant alligator and things like that, as to what then becomes of them after you've healed them. Do they become friendly and assist you in any way? Or it just looks fantastic in the world that they've created. The enemies, the combat, the platforming, the story, the music. It just looks better and better every time I see it. I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a kind of a surprise hit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if we look at Compulsion's other two games that they have released, right? Contrast and We Happy Few.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed Contrast. Back in the time, it's been. I mean, it was like a real indie game. Just what you expect from such a game, but it was actually really good. We Happy Few never really clicked with me.
I think that I think for me, We Happy Few didn't click was because it released in preview and then took so long to get into where it needed to be that by the point it was in that place, people had already moved well on. It's unfortunate because I've heard from people who have played through We Happy Few after it's had its updates that they thoroughly enjoyed that game.
I did that. I didn't do the preview thing.
Yeah.
But I did play it when it was finished, and it still didn't click with me.
Yeah.
It had good ideas, but you could tell that the game was a little too ambitious for them at the time. They were still an indie studio, super small studio, and I think they just had a too high ambition, and with that, it kind of never really clicked with me. So my hopes for the next Compulsion game was, of course, Xbox giving them a proper funding, which they obviously did, giving them the time to do what they want to do. But to be fair, in all honesty, they were not on my super hype list. But ever since we've seen South of Midnight, and I mean, even before the developer direct, they've shown a lot in smaller snippets. We've seen it at the showcases and so on. It looked better and better. But today, we got an idea about the story, how Hazel is transitioning over to this magical world to rescue her mother, and that these creatures are corrupted all across this fantastical world, and then she frees them, and really interesting lore, and man, is it gorgeous, right? I really dig the art style. Still not a fan of the stop motion though, but since they've already said you can turn it off and just play it without stop motion, I think this is a game that will surprise many people.
Yeah.
And given the release schedule of this year of announced games, I think beginning of April 8th is actually going to be a very good spot for them.
Yeah.
We don't have too many games during April, and even throughout the end of March, there's not that many bigger games coming out, so people will be ready for new stuff in the beginning of April, and I think it's a perfect spot for the game, and I honestly think it'll surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, 100%. There's one thing I kind of liked about it as well, as you mentioned, the healing thing. It looks like she's kind of got like, you do kind of like a detective kind of style thing to figure out what happened to the creatures, and then learn about kind of what caused them to be corrupted, and go through that and find out that way. So each one has its own kind of little story element to kind of try and solve and heal them, which looks really fascinating. So it's kind of, there's so many different elements to it, like you say, the traversal, the combat, the story, like you say, the detective abilities, the mystic abilities, the music, the art style. It's all come together really well. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what's what in that game and playing it. And I think much like you, I'm going to switch off the stop motion in gameplay and just just leave that for the cutscenes.
If it's possible to turn it off during the cutscenes, I'm gonna turn it off there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I really don't get what is aesthetic about that, especially in a medium like a video game where everyone's screaming for give me the frames, right? And you intentionally remove frames to get this stop motion look. It does not make sense. But again, since it's optional and you can turn it off, it's really nothing to criticize. And yeah,
well, that's a good thing about that type of artistic choice, is that on that artistic choice, you've said this is what we want to do to make the game. However, you can switch it off, and I think that's the way that every studio should be looking at doing things if they're going to make those kinds of art style choices.
I agree.
Just have them as choices.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, man. What did you think about the combat?
Oh, it looks fantastic. It looks varied depending on who you're fighting.
Yeah.
Depending on the bosses, depending on the mini bosses, depending on the smaller creatures that you fight. And again, using your abilities to fight them. I think it doesn't look overly complex. It doesn't look too easy. It kind of looks like a nice balanced combat system. And I think it's going to be one that everybody can easily grab into. I don't think it's going to be absolutely nothing overly too difficult. I think the vast majority of people will be able to jump on this and enjoy it without any difficulty.
Yeah, I agree. I also like, because it's kind of a trend in the industry to do these kind of games in a Souls-ish kind of way.
Yeah.
Right. And it really doesn't look like that. I like the combination of the combat that you've described perfectly, right? With platforming things in the game, that your abilities also tie into platforming, right? Where they've shown where she's got these icicle things to climb or dash through, along walls, right? And stuff like that. It's gonna be one hell of a game, I've no doubt. And also the music, man. I like it when you have in games music that isn't just like a gigantic orchestra thing, but you have actual songs in there. That is such a great idea to do that, and it gives especially boss fights, like this epic moment. And so I cannot wait, man.
Speaking on the music as well, before you get on it, speaking of the music, I like how it seems to be where it starts. So when you're not in combat, it's kind of the music's there, and then as soon as you start getting into combat, then it ramps up into like this, really hyperactive version of the track. I like how a lot of developers don't do it, but when they do it like that, when it kind of the music takes off just at the right moments, that's exactly where it should be. It looks fantastic.
Absolutely. Pyromat sends in a £2 super chat. Thank you so much. And he says, so Dutch, State of Midnight is Deep South Princess Mononoke?
Yes indeed. Yep. I agree.
I don't know what that means. So, but I feel like I shouldn't ask. All right. Yeah, man. Anything you want to add to South of Midnight?
No, again, I think fantastic release date. I'm so glad it didn't just get a release window and we got an actual physical date for it. And again, it's the second closest on this list that we get to play after the shadow drop of Ninja Gaiden Black. So, fantastic. And again, I think it's a right amount of distance between Avowed and and South of Midnight.
South of
It's got a
Midnight.
good month between them, a good month and a bit between them, which is good. Allows you to get a real good taste of Avowed and play through Avowed properly
Yes.
before you jump
yes.
into the next one.
Actually, they kind of laid out their releases now really well. You know, the high-profile releases in Game Pass. We have Ninja Gaiden right now. That will keep us busy for the next 2.5, 3 weeks till we get Avowed, right? Then we have that to play throughout the end of February and March, and then we start April with South of Midnight towards the end of April, because I don't feel like South of Midnight is going to be like a 50-hour game, right?
We'll discuss the end of April in a second.
And then we move to the end of April, right? And May, and we'll get to those games. But I think they've stretched it out pretty well now, which is good, because that's been actually the one of the criticisms I had last year, right, where they squeezed everything in mid-September to end of October, and they've stretched it out, which is good, man. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's talk about the end of April game, April 24th. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 from Sandfall Interactive, coming to Game Pass day one, right?
Yeah.
And last podcast, you talked about that this is one of your most anticipated games, right? And did it disappoint?
No, it just got me even more hyped. This thing just looks better. Another one that just continues to look better and better. When we first saw the gameplay footage when it was first announced, we thought, oh my god, a traditional with a twist turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
But like Final Fantasy, where it was an ATB based, but with real-time elements in there, so you can kind of do a little bit more damage if you hit the things whilst you're doing the attack at the right moments, and you can block in real time, so you can actually block all of the attacks if you time your blocks at the right moment. And then they just went full bore on all of the details today, and announced a whole range of things, like the hundreds and hundreds of abilities you can attach to each character. And then
passive abilities,
massive ability list, and then you've got the upgrade list for each character, which is at least 20 slots of upgrades for each one.
Yeah.
Plus the hundreds of ability lists that you can go through and mix and match and add different things to every character to make different things for everybody and change them into different types of combat styles for each character. On top of that, then going into the world in itself, and having an actual overworld, an old school traditional overworld like we haven't seen in like since the early Final Fantasies. Which
although
we have seen some. Visions of Mana had a little bit of an overworld, not quite the same. I do agree, not quite the same though, where you could kind of run around the overworld.
Yes.
And yeah, it looks absolutely fantastic. And again, the characters that they've designed. Very whimsical. I like how it's kind of a mixture of kind of real people and then whimsical creatures, and of course introducing a new character in there as well that we hadn't seen before, which is a guy that can transform into creatures that you've defeated, and then use him in battle against others. So that looks absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, the traversal around the overworld.
The whimsical part, before I forget it.
Yeah.
Because I think that stood out, because usually you only see that in, like, these Japanese JRPGs.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because this is kind of like a JRPG, but it's a Western RPG.
French RPG.
And it's a French RPG. Yeah, it's a French RPG, and these whimsical creatures, the whimsical humor elements, is something you usually only see in JRPGs, right?
Yeah.
And So I really think that stood out. I didn't expect that from the trailers that we've seen before.
Yeah.
I did not think that they are going down this road, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know what it kind of reminded me of, especially that world they went in with the how do you put it? Well, those strange creatures where they've kind of not got, they're all kind of patchwork creatures and
Yeah.
things like that. But and that world that he's talking about, where they said it's all kind of messed up and there's like houses that are barely built correctly and everything wants to fight or looks like they want to fight you. That kind of area reminded me a little bit of Near Automata, when you go to the fairground and everything's a little bit strange
Yeah,
and whimsical.
I can see that.
But yeah, it looks, honestly, the entire thing just looks absolutely fantastic. I didn't think they could
It
make it
does.
look better, and it just keeps looking better. The combat, the
Yeah.
art style, the music, the traversal, the overworld that they've brought into it, the fact that they've got hidden bosses in the levels and hidden areas in the levels that you can go and traverse to, much like traditional overworld bosses that they had in Final Fantasy with like 7, for instance, where you had
Yeah.
ruby weapon and emerald weapon that you didn't technically have to fight, but if you wanted to and you want to give yourself a little bit more of a challenge,
A boost.
yep,
Yeah.
a little bit more of a challenge throughout the game or even after the game, you can go around the overworld and find these hidden bosses to go and fight in the overworld, and that type of stuff just brings back, that's nostalgia type stuff that they're bringing into this gameplay, and I just did not
I think
expect them.
that is something that you just mentioned, the nostalgia factor. Even though it's like their premiere game, right? First game of the studio and so on. The game kind of still feels familiar.
Yeah,
Um, with a lot of the classic JRPGs, but it brings it with its art style, and it's got dropped it gorgeous visuals into the modern days, and that really stands out because when you think about turn-based JRPGs these days, I automatically think about games like Octopath,
yeah,
like Ayuden Chronicles,
yeah,
and they all have these the look feels or just screams at you indie studio or AA production or so. And this one, like the top-notch visuals, right?
yeah,
Massive production quality, high quality voice actors as well in the game. Insanely beautiful art style with diverse biomes, right? They've shown a couple of them. And it just feels, it screams like, okay, this is a JRPG, even though it's a French RPG,
yeah,
with a triple A budget that is actually turn based,
yeah,
and we haven't had that in a long time, right?
Yeah.
Because the modern Final Fantasies, I love them. I love Final Fantasy 16. I like the 7 remake and Rebirth and so on. Also enjoyed 15 and but they were all like real-time combat, right?
yeah,
And having such a game with that kind of production quality in as a turn-based RPG, it's just a nice change of pace. Yeah.
yeah. It is. Absolutely. But I was just astonished. I was absolutely astonished at just how much they managed to talk about for this game. Um, like you say, they went fully in depth into the not just the combat, but also the upgrade system and all of the different abilities, and saying you can mix and match and create kind of a plethora of different things that we might not even tried before. They also said that originally when they were playing it, it was a little bit too hard, and a lot of them were getting beat up.
Yes.
So they had to kind of refine it and balance it and things like that. So they've got it into a position now where it's good for people who want a challenge and people who aren't that great at these type of games to be able to play and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I like how they've kind of went into that as well to say, yes, we've had some troubles trying to get this not difficult, but we've made it so it's a good middle ground for newcomers and people that want a challenge.
Yeah.
But honestly, like you mentioned, we haven't had traditional old school turn-based RPG, French RPG, JRPG, that has been of AAA quality for a very long time.
Very long time, yeah.
So it's fantastic to see that, and I can't wait to traverse the world and come across all these weird and wonderful characters. And it looks, you know what it is? When I first saw it, I thought this is going to be a little bit more linear. When we first saw it, is it just going to be? It's great. It's a turn-based RPG. But is this going to be a little bit more linear, or is it just going to be little open areas? But then the fact that they've really fleshed out the world and added so many different characters and things to the world, and it just, my hype just went through the roof. Through the roof. Yeah.
I mean, you know, with these kind of games, you're gonna spend a lot of time in them, right?
Yeah.
And that also means that the story and lore needs to be interesting enough to keep you engaged.
Yeah.
It's not just about the actual combat mechanics, and so you got to nail those as well, of course, if you want people to spend 20, 30, 40 hours in a game, but you kind of also need to flesh out the story. And they've granted a pretty good look in what's this about. Why is it called Expedition 33, right? It's an interesting idea. For a story, and from what we've seen so far, we have like good characters with not too much humor, but a little bit of it in there, right? It's still a serious tone in the game, but they sprinkle in these humorous, whimsical elements and as well, and I am pretty confident that this could be a story that is good enough to keep you engaged for that many hours, right? I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You have to have the good to have it engaging. You need to have a lot of interesting things, not a little bit of humor, but a good serious vibe. But it needs to be a lot of interesting characters. The story needs to be really keep you on your toes and make you interested in it. It just everything screams kind of that they've put heart and soul into this game, and it looks fantastic. Some areas it looks like really like grim and dark, and then other areas it's like uplifting and silly, like I said, the traversal on your giant hot air balloon guy who floats about and bounces around and things. It's a silly, whimsical thing to add, but he's also one of the most powerful beings on the game. So
yeah, true that.
So it's
true that.
So it's like it's got this counterbalance. It's like, yeah, he might look silly and he might look like a giant inflatable hot air balloon, but he's also extremely powerful. So so if you need to use him, do so. No, it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm the more I see this, the more it surprises you that they've managed to get this for Xbox Game Pass Day 1, to be fair.
Yes. Yeah. True that. And what do you think about the release date?
Again, I was like, I hope to God I've finished playing Avowed all the way through and then South of the Midnight, and I've enjoyed that by the time I come to this. But
I think so.
Yeah.
But listen, this is why I said what I said earlier. I think they've stretched it out pretty well.
Yeah.
Because like a good month in between Avowed and South of Midnight, almost 1.5 months, right?
Yeah.
Is like enough time to play and finish Avowed. I know February isn't just allowed, right?
Yeah.
There's Kingdom Come Deliverance and so on. And of course, we shouldn't forget that March is also Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you can't just look at the Game Pass releases alone in that context. And I'm forgetting one other game in February. Anyway, but I think it's good to stretch it out.
Absolutely.
And not to squeeze everything in between too many releases in the fall and holiday season. And if you think about a game like Expedition 33, right? Where would you place that? Would you like place it in a holiday season where we can expect a GTA and a Fable and an Outer Worlds 2 and a Call of Duty and
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, and yeah, so I think it's a good idea to do that. It keeps Game Pass gamers engaged with Game Pass.
Yeah.
And I think pretty good spot for Expedition 33.
It's sooner than I thought it would be, and that's a good thing because I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, if you think about other AAA releases, right? Around that time, there are none. Like the other big release that is announced so far, in terms of like blockbuster titles, is maybe Assassin's Creed Shadows in March, and towards the end of March you also get Atomfall, which is also coming to Game Pass as well. But so having a month in between Atomfall and Assassin's Creed to Expedition 33 makes total sense. And in April, nothing has been announced in terms of major releases so far. So it does make sense, man. It does make sense. Yeah.
So yeah, fantastic date though. I'm glad it's sooner than I thought. So I cannot wait.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait.
Yeah. Monster Hunter Wilds was, by the way, the game I was thinking.
And Pyro was mad that you didn't select Like a Dragon franchise.
I always
the pirate one.
I'm not
Pirate
a
Like a
Yakuza
Dragon
fan. It's like, I don't know. These games just don't click with me, and so I never have them on my radar. But yeah, of course, we've got the Yakuza game in February as well.
Yeah, Pirate Yakuza.
True. Pirate Yakuza. Yeah, man. So, and then they closed the show with another major release for Game Pass, right?
Yep.
On May 15th, it's been confirmed, got a date, which is awesome, man. Doom: The Dark Ages.
Yep.
What can you say about Doom? I mean, they just nail that brutally hardcore gunplay, right?
Yeah.
Rip and tear. It's just, it is fantastic. Like, I so enjoyed Doom. What was it, 2016 or 17?
Yep. 2016, yeah.
And Doom 16, right? And Doom Eternal, was phenomenal. Even though, I'm not the biggest fan of the platforming, it didn't bother me as much as apparently bothered others. And no platforming in Dark Ages now, right? I really liked how they've done the comparison in what is the core of the gameplay, where they said, well, the Doom Eternal 2016 was about moment-to-moment pacing, right?
Yeah.
Doom Eternal was about elevating it through like basically vertical gameplay. You had the platform, you had jumping, you had traversal in there,
grapple.
right? And this time they are aiming more for a tanky Doom, still fast paced, right? But yeah, it just, they always get it right. It just feels so good to kill these demon hordes. You have the shield now, you have the melee weapons now, and these typical Doom like badass guns in there, and it looks fantastic. Of course, it runs fantastic. They're going to bring the frames. They're gonna nail the feeling of the gunplay, and it's just cannot wait for Doom, man.
Yep. Yeah, it looks absolutely. Again, first of all, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit more of an open world Doom this time around, in certain aspects. Significantly more open than the previous two have been. But then, of course, changing, like you mentioned, changing up the combat a bit. So now you've got a lot of melee weapons, and they're focusing on taking people on head on. So of course you've got the chainsaw weapons, you've got flails, you've got like serrated axes and machetes, and a lot of more hand-to-hand combat type of equipment that they're expecting you to kind of go head on with them with. Significantly larger enemies, but they kind of basically couldn't saying just take them on, just go for it. Like we've got all of the tools at your disposal now, where you can run and gun if you want to run and gun, side like strafings back again, and we can obviously go in head on with the weapons and parry attacks and send them back again. And we've got counter moves and finishers on every enemy now. You've got a finisher, so you can go and do a finishing move on every one of them if you want to. And then they kind of went even further on that and start talking about the giant mech suit and how they've kind of got that integrated.
Oh yeah.
And they've said like the mech suit's not a one-off. Like it has its own kind of gameplay and its own segments and its own abilities and its own fighting areas. And it's not just a one-off area or one-off level. And the same goes for the flying mechanical dragon. And that's exactly the same. That again isn't a one-off period, and there's going to be multiple sections where you're on the dragon and flying around and using it and in combat with it, and again has its own purposes. So it looks absolutely fantastic. To be fair, I think this is going to catch a lot more people playing the game than Doom Eternal did. I think, as you mentioned, with the should we say platforming of Doom Eternal, that kind of and the hopping around and the jumping from high platform to high platform and jumping around and things might have put a few people off. And I think this is more of a return to old traditional Doom, but with more emphasis on being like you see, a tank and just going straight in and going for it. It looks absolutely fantastic. One thing I loved that they picked up on was that they said the story is no longer in the codexes and they're going to be in cutscenes, like actual cinematic cutscenes, so you can see the story and not just read it on a codex. So that's going to be awesome, because I think that's going to be keeping people into the world of Doom significantly more, and you'll actually think, oh, there is a story here, and not just a lot of people just
Doom has a story.
Doom has a story. So you're actually able to see the story and not just have to rely on something to read all the way through, which most people who play Doom do not do. They don't read any of it; they just play through. Only the hardcore Doom fans read through.
Because I don't like reading codexes and stuff. This is just in games.
It's okay. It's okay when you've got codexes when there is already a story going on around you, and you know what's going on in the story, and the codexes are there to just give like little, oh, this happened here as well, by the way. Like in the likes of your Starfields and things like that, where you know what's going on in the story, but then you're going into some random base and you read something and you're going, oh, something attacked and we don't know what happened. And you're like, oh, I wonder what happened. And then you go and investigate. But like you mentioned, like it really helps when a game doesn't just rely on codexes or on tablets to just tell the entire story. So yeah, fantastic that they've done that, and I think that again is going to pull more people into the game. The fact that there is going to be something you can follow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Drawn TJ sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, man. He asks, Foxy, do you think they announced the release date for Fable during the June showcase because they said 2025 last year? Yeah, absolutely. I've said this even before the Developer Direct was announced. I fully expect Fable to be the game for the Developer Direct right after the June showcase. They've done that twice now. First with Starfield 2 years ago. Last year they did it with Call of Duty, and this year I have no doubt that this is gonna be Fable.
Yeah.
Because it just makes sense. Fable is there. probably most high-profile announced game so far.
Yeah.
Right? You could talk about something like GoesseN Day and so on, but I don't think. But yeah, Fable is just definitely the most high-profile game this year. Let's put it down to that, and it's a massive game. It's a game that kind of needs explanation, so it makes sense to put that in the developer direct after the June showcase, and of course we're gonna get a release date with that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's realistically that's Xbox's biggest game this year.
Yeah.
So they'll be wanting to put an emphasis on that, and I think especially for Fable, there's going to be a lot that needs to be talked about when it comes to the way that they've done the combat now. If there's any form of kind of upgrades or anything that they've got for the characters, they'll be talking about that. The way they've designed the world and the story, there's going to be a lot to talk about with Fable.
And the mini games and the
character creation.
You think there's going to be character creation?
To a point, I think there's going to be obviously going to be a male and female character, but I think there's going to be customizability and things like that you'll be able to do, much like the first one.
Maybe in terms of skins or something, but I don't
clothing
think
and
you have a full-fledged character creator.
Yeah. I meant more like clothing and that respect, and being able in the original Fables, changing their hairstyles and changing the things. Like the character will still be the character, but being able to add tattoos or something on them. It depends how different they go with it. In the couple of the Fables, you'll be able to get really fat or not, work out or not. But yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those dev directs after the showcase in June, I think. And then they'll obviously give you the release date in the normal showcase, and then they'll go the dev direct to flesh out.
Yes, I agree. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So coming back to Doom, man, also something that just stands out is like the super good pumping metal music, right?
Yeah.
That's just setting up the mood.
Yeah.
And it just needs to be there in a Doom game, and it's back. So yeah, overall, I think Doom is really the highest profile game they have in the first half this year.
Yeah.
Because as much as I'm looking forward to Avowed, and I'm gonna be spending an unhealthy amount of time in Avowed, because I know myself I'm gonna explore everything.
Yeah.
Doom is just such a well-known brand and IP, and to have that in May really finishes up the strongest first half of a year Xbox probably ever had.
Yeah.
If you think about this now, we have the release dates, right? Avowed, South of Midnight, then Expedition 33 and Doom.
Yeah.
Like we are here now, we've been talking about this here, and Xbox needs to get into that cadence where they want to release a game every quarter. Now we're sitting here getting one basically every month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is just awesome. Xbox is super well prepared for this year. It's gonna be a massive year. Yeah, we still have games like the aforementioned Fable and Call of Duty and Outer Worlds 2 and so on.
Outer Worlds 2, I forgot about that. That's also this year. Jesus. Wow.
Also this year. And honestly, I truly think it's not going to be delayed, because it wouldn't make sense to announce that at the Game Awards to be a 25 title if you weren't sure to hit 25.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was announced super late in 24 that it was 25.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're that close to launch, you're not going to announce a window that you will not be able to make. Yeah. And so Outer Worlds definitely this year. Also Fable, I don't think they're going to delay that. So this is one hell of a year for Xbox, and
Yeah.
this developer direct, perfect opening for the year of Xbox in 2025, right?
Yeah.
Perfectly put together, well edited, great pacing, great games, lots of excitement for fantastic games there. And if I look at the poll in the chat that we put up, which I'm gonna close now, our community thinks or feels similarly. And 81% gave it a 10 out of 10. 13% a 9 out of 10, 8% an 8 out of 10, and no one voted for a 7 or worse. So it was a fantastic developer direct to open up this year, to get people excited. Except Ninja Gaiden 4, everything's a first half 25 game that they've shown. So you can expect great things from the June showcase, right?
Yep.
Where they will definitely talk about the stuff that comes out in the second half of this year. And besides all the good stuff that is already announced for this year, there are still floating around so many rumors about, some people still claim Gears might make it this year. I personally doubt.
I do not think that. Wearing a Gears t-shirt today, and I do not think that.
Yeah. But there are still a couple of other surprises that they could have up their sleeve this year, right? With so many studios, so many projects that they are collaborating with other studios. Yeah, for instance, the Project Dragon thing that they do with IO Interactive, we Contraband, and all these other projects that they are doing with second party studios that we have known for years, many years now. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another like release this year of a game that we don't know of just yet, right? So yeah, Dutch, what are your closing thoughts on this developer direct?
Yeah, I love that this has now become a staple in the pipeline every year. Fantastically produced, great showcase, in-depth information about all the games that are coming in the first half of this year.
True.
And I just love the fact that, like you mentioned, all bar one got their official release dates, and the one that didn't, of course, was literally just announced today. So so you can't really shout at them for not giving a release date when it's like an official release date, when they're planning for it to be fall, which is kind of where GTA is landing, but also it's the first time they've mentioned it. It's literally just been shadow announced, but we did get a nice cheeky shadow drop on Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, so no, fantastic. I would probably still place it into a good 9.5, 10 out of 10 mark. I don't think there's anything really that could be changed.
No?
Honestly, for me, I just don't think they can. I think it's just so well put together.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. What can you complain about with this developer direct?
Yeah,
we know the format by now, right? So if someone went in there and was expecting like another June showcase, obviously Yoshi might get disappointed. But since we were all well aware what a developer direct is, right? 4 games, 10 minutes each. I don't think you could have done it more in any way, shape, or form better. Ninja Gaiden 4 as the mystery game was a great surprise. The Shadow Drop, South of Midnight looks fantastic. Expedition 33 climbed way up the ladder, yeah. And now we are, and Doom, of course, yeah. And it's all not just games that are far out, end of year, or you don't know whether they get delayed, right? It's all coming this year. They got proper release dates, like you mentioned earlier. right? Which we didn't get last year.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic show, and I'm fully with you on that score. Somewhere in between a 9 and 10 is absolutely a fair rating, absolutely. And yeah, Dutch, we can see how the tables have turned, right?
Yes.
Because if you compare Xbox's lineup now that we just mentioned, this insanely good first half of the year, the major releases coming in the second half of this year with Fable and Call of Duty and of course Outer Worlds and so on, and it's probably going to be Xbox's best year that they have had, probably ever. If we're honest, it's probably ever. So many high profile releases in one year. So, and when you compare that, and we kind of have to compare that to their competitor, right?
Yeah.
To PlayStation. And they've made, over the last couple of days, a lot of headlines by canceling a lot of games, right? End of last week, they canceled Ben Studios' game. They canceled the God of War online game, right? This week we learned they've also canceled the Horizon MMO or games as a service or whatever it was going to be. They're canceling games left and right, and we've talked ever so often on this show about how dry their roadmap actually looks. Yeah, because if you think about what they've announced so far in terms of first party games, you have this year one game, right? In
Ghost of Utah.
Ghost of Utah. And the Wolverine game, which...
Judging by the articles I've seen over the last day or so, it's not looking like it's going to be this year at all. I think that's going to be next year.
And we knew that before. We saw the IGN article, especially after the leaks that Insomniac has suffered, right? So it's not going to be a this year game. Definitely not. I'm not even sure about 26, honestly, because after these massive leaks, you know they gotta change a lot, and so. And then we've got the Naughty Dog game.
Intergalactic.
The Intergalactic. I knew it was something with Inter. Right. So, and that's it. That's it. 3 games, right? Scattered. And Intergalactic is also not going to be a 25 game, which is also probably a 26, 27, if not a later game, given how long Naughty Dog usually takes to make a game. So the roadmap looks bare dry, and we've always said, well, man, we know that this and that studio, Bend is working on something, right? We know that. We knew that they're working on something. We knew it's not the game they wanted to make, which would have been Days Gone 2, but they've put it on another project. We knew they were supposed to make a games as a service title, but still we didn't know what it was. And with all the other studios the same, and now they're getting canceled left and right. If you look over the last 2 years or so, they started this when Jim Ryan was still in charge. They started this a campaign of we're gonna release this over the next 5 years 12 high-profile games as a service titles, and now 9 out of 12 games are already cancelled, and I wouldn't be surprised if the others get cancelled as well. Maybe the one from Bungie, maybe they'll keep that, but that's it. And if you look at how they started this gen, right? They started this gen pretty well, but this was still like the laurels of Sean Layden. And if you think about the PS4 era, towards the end of the generation, Sean Layden took over. Sean Layden left, and Jim Ryan took over. And these games that we've seen in the first 2-3 years of this generation were all put into production under Sean Layden.
Yeah.
This was still Jim Ryan getting the resting on the laurels of his predecessor, right?
Yeah.
And then he put this plan in motion to make games as a service titles, even though you could already tell back in 2020 that the games as a service market is way too saturated. People have their games as a service titles, the Fortnites and the Warzones and so on. They are out there, and it's just a super challenging market to pull people away from their beloved Fortnite, which they have spent thousands upon thousands of euros on them.
Yeah.
Right. And we've seen games as a service titles fail. Which games as a service title came into the market over the last 4 years that was a true success? Yeah, you had these games like a Pal World that was a success for a minute. Yeah, and you had the Helldivers that was a success for a minute. And I know people are still playing it, at least on Steam, but it's not like super high numbers. Nobody's talking about it. There's nothing on those games, and it's just a super saturated market. And during that time, he decides to make 12 games and wasting all those resources for years and years and years, right? Bent has been working on that game for 4+ years. The Horizon MMO, also 4-5+ years in the making already. They could have released Days Gone 2 by now. I'm sticking now just for the sake of argument with Bent Studios.
And they should have done.
If they would have, yeah, they should have, right? And if you cancel these games now in the year 24-25, you've lost 5 years of development time through all these studios, right? And they're not gonna have a game ready next year or the year after. Even if Bent is now put on a new project, it's gonna take another 5 years to make a game. So it's gonna be a PS6 game, right?
Yep.
And that just brings up the question, Dutch, is this gonna be one of the worst generations PlayStation has ever had? Because if you think about it, how many studios do they have left that could release a high-profile game within, let's say, the next 3 years, which is probably the time frame we are talking for the rest of this generation? You can argue, right? 2020, 2021, they had the games, right?
Yeah.
They launched this generation with Demon's Souls and Miles Morales, and the year after they had Horizon and they had God of War, and then it already started to dry out. 23, they only had one major first-party game, which was Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
And 24 was saved by 2 exclusive deals that they had with Phantom something Blade, Phantom Blade and Final Fantasy. Yeah, granted they had Astrobot, but obviously Astrobot didn't, even though it won a lot of Game of the Year awards and it was a fantastic game. I'm not hating on Astrobot, but if you look at the sales numbers, yeah, like 2-3 weeks ago, they released, it has crossed now 1 million sold units. It's like, yeah, but granted, they had the one first-party game in Astrobot. So in 2 years, yeah, they had Spider-Man and Astrobot, 2 first-party games, and now we look at this year. It's also going to be only one noteworthy first-party game, Ghost of Yotei. And then they have maybe Wolverine next year.
Don't forget Marathon. Don't forget Marathon.
Yeah, Marathon, dead on arrival, man. Dead on arrival. Let me tell you that. They can cancel that as well. This is, even though we have not seen much, there's no way that this game is going to pull people in.
Nope.
It might if they make it free to play, and which they won't, I highly doubt they will make it free to play. Even if they would make it free to play, it will get a super short initial hype, because free to play, everyone can try it out, play it for 10, 20 hours, and then move on. And it's basically the Helldiver thing. Everyone was playing Helldiver, everyone was loving it, but then people moved on, and the 20, 30,000 that are still playing on Steam are not gonna, make up for successful games as a service titles. I don't actually know the numbers that Fortnite pulls in or Warzone pulls in every month, but it's not even close for a comparison. So it's unrealistic to bring out the Marathon and think this is going to be a major hit. Not going to happen. It could be a good game. We haven't seen it, but I can tell you that. And it's so. And if I just look at how good they started this gen, right, with 2, 3, 4 major releases in 2020, 21, awesome. But then it becomes apparent that this was just one hell of a bad decision from Jim Ryan. To bet on all these games as a service titles. And now a lot of people I've seen on Twitter are now screaming for Herman Holst's head. And he had it saying he was head of PlayStation Studio at a time. Now he's head of PlayStation brand, co-head with the other guy. But at the end of the day, it wasn't just his decision and to make games as a service. It was now his decision to cancel all those games, because they seen we are investing millions and millions of dollars, and they might all suffer the same fate like Concord, dead on arrival. And it's probably true, right? Who's looking forward to it? I haven't seen anyone screaming, man, I definitely need a God of War games as a service title. This is just fantastic. Let me spend hundreds of
I don't even know how that game would have worked
on X-skins for and run around the world with 200 others, Kratos.
I don't even know how that game would have worked. It just
they probably wouldn't have known either, and that's why they cancel it, because it doesn't make sense. Or you swing around New York with 400 different Spider-Mans, right? A lot of multiverses. You pull in a lot of multiverses. Or Horizon and MMO. Who was asking for that? Nobody, right? People want, and this is what I don't understand, because single player games can, especially in this day and age, can be super, super successful, right? We've seen it. The biggest games of the years usually end up being good single player games. Right? Look at your Elden Rings, your Hogwarts Legacies, and so on. These are the games that people buy and play. And yes, you're not going to make continuous revenue out of those. True. But yeah. And that's the kind of experience that people want from PlayStation, right? And we're not getting that. And we're not, and now seeing so many. I mean, there's maybe they have one other arrow in the quiver with the Santa Monica game, right? We know Cory Barlog is working on a sci-fi game that isn't announced yet. So, but even if they have that ready for this gen, so I'm talking now for the next 3 years, because we all assume 28 is going to be the end of the PlayStation 5 generation. We've heard maybe 29, but for the sake of argument, it's 28. They have another 3 years that they need to bridge. And basically 4 years because PlayStation 6 is going to come out in November, like every console does. They always come out in November, except Nintendo consoles. But almost 4 years. They have to bridge that. And they have 3 games, maybe 4, if you count the Santa Monica game in, which hasn't been announced yet. This is it's really not a strong generation for PlayStation,
Nope.
considering that the last 2 years were bone dry either. And that also explains, Dutch, by the way, why we haven't had a showcase. What are they going to bring into a showcase?
Yep.
You can't fill a June showcase with 2 games.
We've been saying this for so long though. But I feel like we've been talking about PlayStation needing a showcase for like years, and it has literally been years. Every year we say they need a big showcase, and then we get a state of play, and then it ended with Astro Bot, and I'm like, okay, well at least they've got a game, but then they don't announce anything for the future, and it's like, right, okay, so still no roadmap. And then we get another one, and then we got Ghost of Utah, and I was like, good, that's one game. And then nothing else. Like, the roadmap is just bone dry. You can't just announce, here's a single game once a year, and then not talk about the what else you've got in the pipeline or what else is working. But we've been talking about it for so long, and we said it the moment they started doing this live service thing. Sony don't have what Microsoft do in how they cater and look after live service games. Microsoft are fully willing to lose money on the opening section of a live service game if they know that game will work in the long run. Sony have proven and shown that they will absolutely not do that.
Yeah.
And with a lot of live service games, the vast majority are not hyper successful at launch, and they grow to become successful afterwards and find their market. Sony don't want to put that time or investment in. Naughty Dog said as much when they cancelled Factions 2, that the team wasn't big enough to cope with the demands of creating new content all of the time for a live service game, or the investment it would require to do that and take away from creating another new game. So they just decided on both the investment and time front that they would just cancel the game and concentrate on a new title. Okay. So it shows that Sony just aren't capable on that aspect, and that's not anything to be kind of disheartened about, but just be honest with yourselves and realize that the live service thing isn't for everybody. Microsoft have got it to a T because they've had years of running live service titles.
And even Microsoft, if you think about Microsoft and Xbox, if you look at their roadmap, it's all single player games, right? Yep. Well, you got the Call of Duty now in there. We were taking this one thing out of the equation because, but other than that, it's all single player games. Doom, single player. Avowed, single player. South of Midnight, single player. Fable, single player. Outer Worlds 2, single player. It's all single player games. We always talk about, okay, how is Microsoft supporting those games? They're not betting like all their studios on ongoing games, right? They have Sea of Thieves, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I fully agree on what you said. It took them years to get it where it is, right? And then they've got Fallout 76, which they've supported now for many years.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Elder Scrolls.
It's not
online.
And Elder Scrolls Online,
Forza Horizon.
Would you consider Forza Horizon a games as a service title?
Yeah, consistently adding new cars, consistently adding new events and seasons and challenges and maps.
I still would not call it a games as a service title, because a games as a service title to me is a game where you get the season passes. And
you kind of do. They add the
in-game
car
shop
passes.
Yeah, they got the car passes. Yeah, well, yeah, you might be right. Like okay.
Outside, but they're the key ones, yeah. And outside of that, like you say, of course, you had Grounded as well, which was a live service title. A little one, not a big one, but it was.
Yeah.
But it's about not just, like you mentioned, not betting the house on everything. They know which ones work and what don't. Sea of Thieves was the one where they took the big gamble and it worked out. And the likes of, even if you have a look at Elder Scrolls, that was in such a bad shape when that launched, Elder Scrolls Online. And it took them a long time to get that up. Fallout 76 was horrific when that launched, and it took them a
Yeah.
long time to get that up. But that's what I'm talking about, the nitty gritty. When Microsoft go, you know what it is, it launched in a bad place, but we can't leave it like that. So we're going to stick by it and get it into a good place. We're not just going to let it just die by the wayside. And they do that, and look what's happened. They've got thriving communities on Elder Scrolls and Fallout and Sea of Thieves that are there continuously.
And all those those three live service games are vastly different, right?
Yeah.
One is a racing game.
Yeah.
The other one is, I don't even know what genre you would say that Sea of Thieves is, like,
Open world
and
pirate adventure.
something, and then they have the RPG stuff covered with Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Vastly different games, and the only game I can think from the top of my head that they have on the horizon that is going to be a live service game is now State of Decay 3, right?
Yeah.
And even if you think about State of Decay 2, they didn't have the season passes. It was just a game that was well supported with free updates over time, right? So not the games as a service in a traditional sense where they sell you skins and tons of.
I suppose you could add Halo
passes.
Infinite into there as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But,
Okay.
I mean, the point I'm making there is that Sony clearly looked at the live service aspect of the industry and thought we need to get into this, but we're not willing to do the hard part. The hard part isn't creating a game. The hard part is supporting it post release, no matter whether or not that game has a shit launched or not. It requires support, and to get it into a good place, you need to support it.
I don't know how you can think that their plan was to release 12 live service games within 5 years.
Yeah.
That's more than more than 2 games per year as a live service game. How would you think that all of these 12 games are going to be successful?
It's just overkill.
It's impossible because you don't have enough audience. If you release a live service game, and even if it would be successful, you would be able to pull in the players from their war zones and their Fortnites. Yeah. They're not going to move on after 6 months to the next live service game and to the next live service game 6 months after. It's not the idea. You put that live service game out, you support it for years, and you keep players in that game for years.
Yeah.
That's when live service becomes profitable.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, man. Let me briefly catch up on a super chat that Tronty J sends in $5. Thank you so much, man. And he says, I hope Fable is co-op like Fable 2 and 3. Man, me too. I loved especially 3. I played a lot of couch co-op back in the time of Fable 3. Would be awesome. Would be awesome if they bring that back. But yeah, PlayStation, man. I have the PlayStation 5, and I think it's a good console, what they did with it. But the support of games this gen is really not good.
Yeah, from first party.
If I think about this year, from first party, of course, if I think about when am I going to turn on my PlayStation 5 again? It's gonna be for Ghost of Yotei, play that one game, and then turn it off for another year.
Until Wolverine hits.
And at least a year, exactly, until Wolverine hits. And that's it. It's like, then the gen is over. So, yeah, I would have expected more. And it's going to be tough for them to bring their studios back to where they're supposed to be after all these cancellations. Because if you think about morale now, if you've worked, it's different. Games get canceled all the time, all the time. Most cancellations we will never ever learn about. Yeah. But that's in early production phase, in pre-production phase, when you realize, okay, this isn't going to be fun. This is not going to turn out to be an enjoyable experience. Then games get cancelled.
Yeah.
But after 4 or 5 years, look at Concord. I mean, that game was finished, right? It was out for a week or two, and then they canceled. It's like, if you think about these resources and the morale at the studios, I can't imagine how the people at Bend Studios feel now. Yeah, 5 years after releasing Days Gone 2, their next big game canceled. To bring those back and do what they want to do and make it good, right? It takes another 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
That's how long it's gonna take Sony to repair their first-party roadmap.
Yeah.
If they're able to. This is.
It is. I wonder.
Well,
we can only sit here and wonder come summer whether that we hope they've got something under their sleeve that we're just completely unaware of to showcase in summer. And that's the only thing we can do at this point, is just hope that they do turn up and surprise us and have something to show. But it isn't looking promising at the moment for the remainder of the gen for Sony PlayStation.
Honestly, what are they supposed to show? Like, realistically, we know the studios they own.
Yeah.
Right? And except the Santa Monica Cory Barlog game, there isn't anything left. We know the next Naughty Dog game. We know the next Insomniac game.
Yeah.
Those have already been announced. Yeah, you could show them off properly. You could do that. But is this gonna fill like a 1.5 hour long show?
Well, no, because then they'll have second party and third party deals that they'll continue to do to buff up the rest of the gen.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This is what we're gonna see now, even more extensive, because that's the only way how they can keep those unique selling points, which always have been the exclusives, right? Up, and we will probably see even more of those ridiculous second party deals.
And speaking of which, of second party / third party actually now, Square Enix, of course, speaking today about the next iteration of Final Fantasy, that it won't be a PS6 game, it'll definitely hit this gen. And that you can't speak about it too much, but they want to have it on as many platforms as possible for the next version.
Surprise.
So you said, obviously I can't promise anything now, but we want to have it in as many platforms as possible. So that's, whether that hits Xbox Day 1 is to be seen, but the chances are that it's definitely not going to be PS5 exclusive. It's probably going to be at least PS5 PC day and date.
I agree.
So yeah, it's one of those things. But even if you take that out of it, then there's one less reason to get it on PlayStation if it's on PC day and date, which is the definitive version. As we've seen by the Final Fantasies that released on PC, they are the definitive versions of the game. They had better lighting, they had better quality, the more widescreen versions and higher frame rates, 240 frames and things like that. It's so I expect them to go full tilt on second party, third party deals to bulk up on the shortfall.
Yeah, I agree. Dutch, we've talked now about Xbox. We've talked about PlayStation. Let's talk about Nintendo real quick, because we haven't had the chance to talk about the Switch 2 reveal on the podcast. Not much has been shown.
Nope.
I mean, the Switch 2 is exactly what we've expected it to be.
Yeah.
An improved version of the Switch. The negative voices out there saying, well, it's basically a mid-gen refresh. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we expected. would have been so surprised if they would have moved away from the form factor and the idea of a Switch console. So basically a handheld mixed with a dockable thing. Nintendo never really talks about specs, so this wasn't a surprise either. To brag about specs in a Switch that comes out and will probably be on par with a Xbox One X or PS4 Pro or something, right? In the ballpark. With the benefit of DLSS, maybe, but it's not specs to brag about. So they've done a short reveal. We will get a full reveal of the console and the games on April 2nd, right? They've only teased the new Mario Kart 9, which is fantastic because the Switch, even though it's one of the most successful consoles ever made, right, is never got its own full Mario Kart release.
That was shared with the Wii U.
Mario Kart 8 was a Wii U game, exactly. So there will be more. Metroid obviously will be in the launch window of the Switch 2, and there's still the next 3D Mario, highly rumored. Gonna probably see that revealed in April, and we will learn a bit more about its features. They've teased kind of a thing where they took off the Joy-Cons, right, and slided them across the table, suggesting that they might interact as mice, or something. So, what were your thoughts on the Switch 2 reveal?
I mean, obviously, it's more of a design aspect that they revealed into what it looks like. First of all, the one thing. You don't break what's not you don't fix what's not broken. The Switch 2 isn't broke. Like, the design is fine. It's great. They've implemented some quality of life changes onto the console itself, with the kickstands now being a full-fledged kickstand that goes all the way back, and it seems a little bit less flimsy, especially compared to the original version of the kickstand, which was absolutely horrific. This tiny little kind of kick flip thing here. Just like flips out and can be just ripped off at any given moment, like this horrific thing. They've also implemented significantly better Joy-Cons that have magnetic attachments.
With Hall effect.
Hall effect sticks.
Sticks.
But they're also beefier Joy-Cons. So on the back of them, if you haven't looked at any of the other things, they have detached triggers underneath, so it allows you, once they're connected, they can't just fall off because, of course, they're magnetic. You need to press the button down and detach it, which prevents them falling out, which is really good. But it's also a larger device than the Switch and the Switch OLED. It's actually a bigger device than that one was. And they kind of showed that on the original unveiling of the Switch 2, side by side with it, and they showed that the console itself was actually a bigger device, which is going to be good. And obviously, specifically for people like me and you, like if we're holding the Switch, it is quite small in the hands for the original Switch. It is quite tiny. So that would be good to kind of get something a little bit better for adult hands. Of course, a lot of people say Nintendo's all for kids, but it's the most successful console out of all three of these consoles over the last few generations. It's like, so it's clearly not just for kids.
Console ever made.
Right? They went for the LCD screen at launch at first, but of course, as we know, LCD panels have got better and better over time anyway, so that's not really a bad thing initially. Naturally, there's going to be the OLED version, in the future,
2-3 years down the line.
But no, it's they announced it was backwards compatible with Switch games, which is obviously fantastic. That was one of the first things people wanted cleared up, so you can play all of your Switch games on there. Hallelujah, great. Apart from a handful,
strange.
And the handful was the Labo games, because of course it's a bigger device, and your Labo won't work with that.
But it's a nice change of pace for Nintendo.
It is,
because they've not they've been very known for selling you the same games over and over again, and for your Switch library to carry over, as well as your digital library, is really a good thing. I mean, it should be standard by now, right?
Yeah.
So
do you know the
I don't
one
want to
thing?
praise it too much, but for Nintendo, it is a very customer-friendly move.
Yeah, and one thing I hope they do, and of course I know you can easily like add more storage with micro SDs, but what I hope they do is the internal storage is significantly bigger. Because I think the internal storage, especially with the size of some of the games that you install on the Switch, which are chunky, they take up space very quickly.
I don't think it'll be much more than 500 gigs, though.
That would be fine.
Because
that would be fine. I think the current ones, was it not 64 or 128 or something ridiculous? It's not big.
Yeah. It's
horrific.
Full. Yeah, it's always full.
But and again, also mentioning that other than being backward compatible, they will have Switch 2 exclusive games, so they're trying to kind of get people to go, yeah, well, you can carry your library forward, but I suspect to get people to pick up the Switch, Mario Kart 9 will be a Switch 2 exclusive game.
Yes. I agree. They will have those. And I also expect third-party support to be a lot better with the Switch 2, because it was basically impossible for the vast majority of third-party games to actually run on the Switch. With the Switch 2, that's gonna change, gonna be a different thing. And we already know that Microsoft is intending to bring Call of Duty to the Switch, which makes absolutely sense for them given how big the install base is, right? But I also expect a lot of other third-party developers to support the Switch now, Ubisoft and the EAs and so on, as well as the Japanese companies.
Yeah, and Xbox are going to be absolutely supporting them. You know, I think the only reason they haven't said what Xbox titles are going to Switch is because they were waiting for Switch to announce the console into release date, and then Switch. I think what you'll have after Switch have its Direct in April is a console announcement along with supported third-party games that'll be going on the console and their own first-party titles, including Pokemon's gameplay reveal, Metroid's gameplay reveal, Mario Kart and
Mario 3D.
Mario 3D. It's going to be, to be fair, Nintendo could have an unbelievable year this year with the launch of that console.
Absolutely. When do you think it's going to come out? June. Yeah, May or June. I don't think that they
won't leave it long.
Announce this. That it won't be for long.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make sense for them, and they are the only ones that are known for not releasing in November. Xbox and PlayStation consoles have always come out in November, so this is.
Yeah, so I think it'll be like you say, I think it'll be June time, May, June.
Yeah.
When it releases.
Yeah, I agree. Especially given that it's a portable console as well, right? It makes kind of sense. People want to take that on their summer vacation.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, no doubt. Where do you think they're gonna price it?
400 quid.
If they play position at £400, that would make at least a €500.
No, I think it'll be aligned. I think it'll be aligned price, and I think it'll be €399 or close to €400 and £399.
I don't think, because that would mean it would be at $400 as well. I think that's gonna be too cheap, given how high.
It depends, because I think a lot of these companies now aren't doing aligned market pricing now, because they simply can't for taxing purposes, as we've seen with Xbox and Sony. Even this generation, they've had to kind of segment markets. I think
Nintendo's playing different. I think they do align prices, and I also do think it's gonna be at least 500.
You think?
Because Nintendo always makes a profit off of hardware. They are the only ones not subsidizing their hardware. Yeah, they always sold their consoles at a profit, and And 400 was the launch price of the OG Switch. And a lot of things have changed. We had many years of high inflation in between. Chip prices have gone up. Everything has gone up in prices.
Yeah.
And you see a PS5 Pro launching at effectively $900, including the stand.
Yeah.
That and even at the base PS5 Pro and the Xbox Series X as well, right? Only console generation where prices have went up and not down.
Yeah.
So why would Nintendo go out there and sell that thing for 400?
Fanto's got a little bit of in my chat. He says the hands-on shows in June, so the hands-on kind of events that they're doing everywhere. So he expects it to be maybe a June or July release. Also makes sense. And the bundle leaks. The bundle leaks are £400 by itself and $450 with Mario Kart. So they're the bundle leaks.
Well, that's pound.
Yeah.
Right? That's pound.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
£100, €500 and dollars.
I don't know. I think that would make it. Would that not make it about €450 on conversion? I don't think we're too far off you now. I think our pound's not worth much.
Let me check. That's £400 in euro. 474 euros.
Okay. Maybe a strange
Nintendo's
number,
gonna
wouldn't
round
it?
that up and screw Europeans over again, so we're at 499.
Yeah, probably. $499 in Europe.
That's what we need to. Maybe 450 and 500 with a bundled game.
Yeah.
Could see that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
€450, 500 with that. And for us,
Are you
it'll be...
excited for the Switch?
I need one. I absolutely need one. This thing has seen better days. This is.
Yep.
I can't use the left Joy-Con because the part inside of the console is broken, so it doesn't actually recognize the Joy-Cons connected anymore, and I can't be bothered to fix it. So I just use my Pro controller. So it's not really portable. I just take the screen by itself and charge the screen and take a controller with me. Not the same.
My battery is completely screwed, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't be bothered to exchange it because it's like not that easy. You can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, there are tutorials all over the internet, but So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the Switch 2. My kids were also excited that it got announced. Gonna be a family console there. Anyway, Dutch, let us move on and get to the community questions of the week.
Yes.
Like every Wednesday, you guys can write in questions or topics you would like us to discuss. We put up posts on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on YouTube here. You can send them via DMs to us, whatever's comfortable for you. And Rave Demos sends in a question this week and says, Hola, when it comes to Xbox Play Anywhere and its significance as we contemplate next-gen Xbox, how would you feel if more third parties joined the Xbox Play Anywhere initiative, but charged 10, 20, 30 extra for the dual entitlement? See, I fully expect Play Anywhere to be mandatory next gen.
The one good thing about today's Xbox Direct was that they mentioned at the very beginning, they had a little bit of text saying all of these games were Xbox Play Anywhere.
Which isn't really surprising, honestly, because basically the only games, I know there are one or two exceptions, but for the most, very, 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 very most part, all games that are in Game Pass, or at least the ones over the last 2 years that have been added to Game Pass have been Play Anywhere. And that's the Play Anywhere titles, right? there are still a couple of games in Game Pass that don't support it, like the older Bethesda games, the Skyrim and your Fallout 4s and so on, for instance. But the vast majority of Game Pass games is play anywhere, but that's about it. That's about it, right? So it wasn't really a surprise that a Doom or South of Midnight is going to be play anywhere. I was expecting that anyway. Yeah. So, and I truly believe that with next gen, the play anywhere is going to be mandatory, and that's because Xbox is going to run the next Xbox on Windows.
Yeah.
We've talked about this, and then play anywhere becomes mandatory. Now, for third parties to charge extra for it, they won't label it as such, but I fully expect game prices to go up again.
Yeah.
We've already this week had the rumors that, or first hints of Rockstar launching GTA at $100.
Yeah. But I also think that's probably one of the only titles that would get away with it.
Yeah. But eventually we will see another price increase of around $10 or so.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be labeled as, you're going to have to pay extra $10 to get a dual entitlement. It's just going to be game prices are going to go up. So I don't know how you see this.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have a specific price increase or bracket for a play anywhere game. I think, like you say, I think just in general in the future, game prices will go up again. I don't see anybody doing that. I don't think Microsoft would, and I don't think any developer would want to say, oh yeah, we'll do dual entitlement if we can charge more. Because I think Xbox would just go, nah, it's okay.
Yeah, so we shall see. The Big Bridge writes in, and you know the Big Bridge, he always has these
whimsical tales for
awesome questions. The whimsical, awesome questions. Hey there. The future is bleak. Cyberdyne is fully... But we're doing this here to escape the future, right? So he writes it. The future is bleak. Cyberdyne is fully sentient, and Terminators are hunting down people who have been unkind to machines. They have everyone's data, all of it, but they are prioritizing your video game playthroughs and save files first. They approach you menacingly and start scanning you for any confirmation if you were good to machines. But Arnie is too busy saving John Connor. So you have one chance to prove your innocence by recalling a video game where you were not cruel to machines. Which is the game where you have never hammered a machine? The Witcher 3.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Yep.
Age of Empires. Well, in age, would you count your ballistics as machines?
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Well, but The Witcher definitely. All right, Dutch, that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. I would like to thank our awesome community. Big shout out to you guys for hanging out with us, talking about, of course, the Xbox Developer Direct, PlayStation, and the Switch 2. We super appreciate you guys tuning in here each and every week. Also, big shout out, of course, to our listeners on the podcast services, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Massive shout out to you guys. We hope you did enjoy the show. Dutch, I had a blast.
Yes.
And let people know where they can find you and what you've coming up, man.
Indeed. So you can find me everywhere, of course, at WandrinDutch or WandrinDutch X on Twitter. You can find me here every Thursday doing the Midweek Mix-Up and World of Gaming podcast. And we'll be starting a new Sunday podcast as well, which is not gaming related. It's just everything related. Aside from politics, that will never be discussed. so we can just chill out and discuss anything that we want to, whether that be films, music, whatever, and just have some fun there. Was going to start last week, but didn't get a chance to, so it's likely going to be this Sunday, and I need to get thumbnails and things created for it. But yes, that's where you can find me. It's been a pleasure being back. I'm glad we've started the year with a great showcase. A little mini showcase with Dev Direct again. It's been fantastic. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And guys, we will be back, of course, next week, Thursday, at the usual time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK time, or 8 p.m. Central Europe. Thanks again for tuning in. The weekend is near. I hope you do enjoy your games, and we'll talk to you soon. And don't forget to game on.
Think you've got my number figured out. A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. I'd rather be a dreamer,